Okay, a brief word from me on the lynching of Jess Washington. So we've been talking about white on black violence since the beginning of the course. As you've probably become aware, it's a theme for this class, and it's hard to talk about. It's hard to think about. It's a very difficult topic, and the lynching of Jess Washington is probably the most cruel and gruesome example that we've covered so far. But it brings out a very important historical question, which is how are seemingly good people capable of such atrocities, right? So the people who mobbed and lynched Jess Washington, we can assume were considered themselves good church-going Southerners, right? Um, and yet they stomped into an American courtroom, which is a symbol for rule of law. They pulled this 16-year-old kid out, dragged him out, and committed these horrible atrocities. Uh, Made a spectacle out of it, made a show out of it. So how are they capable of doing this? And this is a question we're always asking ourselves. Probably the most famous example is the Holocaust, right? How is most of the German population capable of turning a blind eye to Hitler's final solution? Um, so how do we deal with this? Well, there's a couple ways. The first way, again, is to try to understand the context. We know that the white South was very racist um, because most white Southerners wanted to maintain social hierarchies, and this was their tradition since the first Africans came to the United States as slaves, right? That was the 1600s. This is a 300-year-old tradition. It just doesn't go away. Um, so understanding context helps, but it still doesn't give us a full picture of how people are capable of these kinds of things. And to be honest with you, I don't think there's any way you can fully understand how people are capable of doing this. So as a result of that, uh, we need to learn to be sympathetic to the people that we study. Now, this does not mean that we need to excuse their behavior or justify their behavior. We can't say, oh, they were just people of their time, and that justifies it. No, because they should have known better, and we know that they should have known better. But we can still realize that we don't have a full and complete picture. We don't know what was going through their minds, right? And in that sense, that's what I mean by sympathy. We just don't understand, right? We weren't there. We're not those people. We like to think that if we were in that situation, we would have done something, but we weren't. That's all hypothetical. So it's important that when we look at history or many other uh, fields for that matter, it's important that we show sympathy and exercise sympathy uh, and realize that we don't have a whole picture. So I hope that helps. Again, not excusing the behavior, not excusing the event. I think it was terrible and it shouldn't have happened. But also, just keep in mind that we don't have a full and complete picture. And this applies not just to the lynching of Jess Washington, but to all historical figures. Like, Thomas Jefferson, for example, was a slaveholder. One of the most complex characters in American history, writes the Declaration of Independence. All men are created equal. He has slaves. Um, Again, we're not excusing that, but we're also admitting that we don't know uh, what was going through his head. We don't know him as a person. So sympathy as a characteristic of examination is is a good one. And so I hope that you can keep that in mind and enjoy the rest of the lesson.